You awoke today feeling that something is missing. It is not money, it is not health, it is something you cannot name. A restlessness in the chest that does not pass. A sensation that you should be living a different life, but you do not know which one. And do you know what is strangest? You clicked on this video. Among thousands of options, among dozens of distractions, you stopped exactly here, and I shall show you the reason. In the next few minutes, I am going to reveal to you something that can completely change the way you see yourself, how you position yourself before your problems, and how you protect your family. I am going to show you that there is a spiritual identity within you that was hidden, and that this identity is exactly the missing piece to unlock the miracle that is stuck in your life. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm going to tell you here is not theory. It is something that real people, Brazilians like me and you, are living right now. Let me ask you a simple question. Who are you? Not your name, not your profession, not the neighborhood where you live, nor the car you drive. Who are you truly? If someone stopped you on the street and said, "Tell me who you are without speaking of what you do," what would you answer? Most people freeze at this question, and it is not for lack of intelligence. It is because we spend our entire lives building an identity that is not ours. We define ourselves by the position, by the salary, by what others think. And when one loses the job, when health fails, when the marriage enters a crisis, we crumble. Do you know why? Because everything that sustained who we thought we were simply disappeared. And then comes that void, that sensation of no longer knowing who you are. This is not weakness, this is a symptom. And I will explain to you exactly of what. There is a concept that psychology and neuroscience have studied in recent years called late-onset identity crisis. Different from the crisis of adolescence, this hits people above 35, 40, 50 years of age. People who have already built a family, who have already worked for decades, who have already done everything right according to the rules of the world, and even so feel a deep void. Research conducted by Brazilian universities shows that more than 60% of adults above 40 years of age in Brazil report feeling that life has lost its meaning at some point in the last 5 years. 60%. That is more than half of the people around you. And the most impressive thing is that most of these people are not sick, are not starving, are not in an extreme situation. They simply no longer know who they are. And here enters something that will surprise you. Because this void is not a common psychological problem. It has a spiritual root, and it is about this that no one speaks. The Bible says in Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5, "Before I formed thee in the belly I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations." Notice what is being said here. Before you were born, before you had a name, before you had a CPF, an address, a job, there already existed a defined identity for you. An identity that does not depend on what the world says. An identity that does not change when the market falls, when the bank account zeros, when people abandon you. This identity is what I call the original identity, and it is exactly this that was hidden from you. Think with me. You grew up hearing what? You need to be someone in life. Study, work, strive, and one day you will get there. And you did all that. You studied, worked, sacrificed. But no one ever told you the following. You already are someone. You were already born with a defined purpose. Your mission is not to build an identity from scratch. It is to rediscover that which was always within you. And when I speak this, it is not just beautiful spirituality. Neuroscience confirms something extraordinary. Researchers from the University of Harvard discovered that the human brain has specific areas that are activated when a person connects with a deep sense of purpose. When someone feels that life has a greater meaning, the medial prefrontal cortex lights up in a completely different way. The body releases dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin simultaneously. This does not happen with superficial pleasure. This happens when the person reconnects with who they truly are. In other words, your body was designed to function better when you live according to your true identity. And when you live outside of it, the body sickens, the mind becomes confused, relationships crumble. It is not punishment, it is misalignment. Now I want you to pay attention to this part, because it is here that most people lose themselves, and it is here that lies the difference between those who continue suffering and those who finally awaken. If you are feeling that this content is speaking directly to you, do the following. Press the like button right now. This simple gesture helps this video reach other people who need to hear this as much as you. And subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, because what comes next is even deeper. Let us speak about the 3 symptoms that prove your true identity is being suffocated. The first symptom is the constant sensation of tiredness that does not pass with rest. You sleep 8 hours and wake up exhausted. You take vacations and return more tired than you went. This is not laziness. This is your spirit screaming that you are living a life that is not yours. It is like putting gasoline in a diesel engine. The fuel is there, but the engine was not made for that. You are functioning, but functioning wrongly. And this consumes an absurd amount of energy. The second symptom is disproportionate irritation. Small things make you lose your temper. Traffic, a word from the spouse, a comment from a work colleague. You explode over things that rationally you know are silly, but you cannot control yourself. Do you know why? Because when a person is living outside of their true identity, they live in a permanent state of tension. It is as if your internal system were always in defense mode. Every external stimulus is perceived as a threat, because deep down you feel that you are vulnerable, and you are. Because he who does not know who he is, does not know what he needs to defend himself from. The third symptom is the most subtle and the most dangerous. It is the sensation that something big is going to happen, but it never happens. You feel a constant expectation, as if you were waiting for something that does not arrive. This generates frustration, anxiety, and with time, depression. But this sensation is not an illusion. It is real. Only that what you are waiting for is not something from the outside. It is not a promotion. It is not a relationship. It is not a miracle falling from the sky. What you are waiting for is your own interior transformation. Your spirit knows that there is something greater reserved for you, but while you do not unlock your true identity, this something greater stays trapped, stuck, halted. And now comes the question that will not be silenced. If your true identity was defined before you were born, why is it hidden? Who hid it? And how can you recover it? This is the part that will impact you. Pay attention. The true identity of a person is hidden by 3 main forces. The first is the culture of performance. Since childhood in Brazil, we learn that the value of a person is in that which they produce. If you produce much, you are worth much. If you produce little, you are invisible. This is a spiritual poison, because when you tie your identity to what you do, any failure becomes an emotional death sentence. Lost the job? You are no one anymore. The business failed? You are a failure, and millions of Brazilians live like this. Live hostages of an identity based on performance. The second force is family trauma. Many of us grew up in homes where we were labeled. You are the problematic one. You will never succeed. You are just like your father. These labels are not just words. They are spiritual chains. They bind the person to an identity that is not theirs. And the worst, the person starts to believe in it, starts to live as if that were true, and goes on reproducing the pattern generation after generation. The third force is the heaviest of all. It is what the Bible calls the theft of spiritual identity. In John chapter 10, verse 10, it is written that the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And what does he steal first? It is not your money. It is not your health. The first theft is your identity. Because if you do not know who you are, you do not know what you can do. If you do not know what you can do, you do not fight. And if you do not fight, you lose everything without even understanding why. Do you perceive the engineering behind this? It is not chance. It is not bad luck. There exists a strategy to keep you away from who you truly are, and this strategy has functioned for decades in your life. But today, now, at this exact moment, something is changing. Because if it were not, you would have already left this video. But you are here, and that tells me something very strong about you. And it is exactly here that I need to share something with you. Pay attention to what I am going to say now. Do you perceive that all this restlessness that brought you here, all this tiredness of living on automatic, all this sensation that your faith should produce more concrete results in your life, all of this is the cry of your true identity, asking to be recognized. I live with thousands of people who go through exactly what you are going through. People who love God, who pray, who go to church, but who feel that there is a deeper layer that they have not yet accessed. And do you know what I discovered? That this layer is directly linked to the understanding of who you are in the spiritual plane. Not who the world says you are, not who your family said you would be, but who God determined you were before the foundation of the world. It was for this reason that I prepared the powerful digital book for you, Manual of the Chosen by God to Protect the Family. This material was born from years of study and of living with people who were exactly where you are now, and who, after understanding their real spiritual identity, saw life change in a way they could not explain. Relationships restored, children who returned home, debts that were resolved in unexpected ways, doors that opened out of nowhere. The link is in the description of this video and pinned in the comments. People who downloaded this material write to me every day saying that it was as if a veil had fallen from their eyes, that they finally understood why they went through everything they went through. This content will not be available forever, and the fact that you are here, hearing this now, is not something I can ignore. If something inside you is saying, "This is for me," do not let this moment pass. Download now, read calmly, and then tell me in the comments what happened. Write down below, "I accept my identity." I want to read your comment personally. Now let us continue, because the most transformative part is yet to come, and what I am going to reveal to you now can literally change the way you wake up tomorrow. Let us speak about how to recover your true identity. And I will give you a practical path, not abstract theory. The first step is what I call the inventory of labels. Take a paper and a pen. It can be right now, pause the video if you need, and write all the phrases that you heard about yourself throughout life. You are stupid. You will not succeed. You are just like your mother. You were born to suffer. Write everything, without filter, without judgment. Afterward, beside each phrase, write, "This is not mine. This is a label they stuck on me." Does it seem simple? It is simple. But the spiritual effect of this is devastating in the good sense, because when you name a lie, it loses power over you. The Bible says in John 8:32, "And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." The truth begins when you identify the lie. The second step is the reconnection with the original voice. I am not speaking of hearing voices, I am speaking of intentional silence. Every day, for at least 10 minutes, turn off the cell phone, sit in a quiet place, and ask a simple question. Who am I truly? Do not expect an immediate answer, but do this every day without fail. Neuroscience shows that the practice of active silence reconfigures neural networks in just 8 weeks. The hippocampus grows. The amygdala, which is the center of fear, decreases in size. In other words, you literally become a different person when you create space to hear who you really are. And there is a fascinating datum here. Researchers from the Federal University of São Paulo discovered that Brazilians who practice some form of meditation or contemplative prayer for more than 6 months present levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, up to 40% lower than the average. 40%. This is more effective than many medications, and the reason is clear. When you connect with your essence, your entire body responds. The third step is the most powerful of all. It is what I call the declaration of identity. Every single day in the morning, before doing anything, you are going to look in the mirror and declare in a loud voice who you are, not who the world says, not who the trauma says, who God says. I am a child of the living God. I was created with purpose. My identity does not depend on my job, on my bank balance, on anyone's opinion. I am who God says I am. It may seem strange at the beginning. It may seem forced. But after 7 days doing this, something changes. Science calls it self-directed neuroplasticity. Faith calls it confession. The result is the same. Your mind begins to reconfigure itself according to the truth. And here I want to tell you something that happened with a woman from Belo Horizonte. She sought me out after watching a video similar to this one. She was 52 years old. She worked as a cleaning assistant in a hospital. She said that her whole life she heard that people like her could not dream big, that the maximum she could achieve was not to go hungry. She began to do exactly what I am teaching you here. inventory of labels, intentional silence, declaration of identity. In 3 months she called me crying, not because something magical had fallen from the sky, but because she finally understood who she was, and from that understanding, she took decisions that she would never have taken before. She asked for a sector transfer, she was promoted, she began a technical course, and the most beautiful thing, her children who were distant began to draw near. Do you know why? Because when a person changes their identity, they change the spiritual atmosphere around them, and everyone feels it. Now pay attention, because this here is urgent. The miracle that you are waiting for, that healing, that restoration, that open door, it is not stuck for lack of faith. It is stuck for lack of identity. God does not deliver promises to people who do not know who they are, not out of malice, out of wisdom. Because if you receive something great without knowing who you are, you will not know how to manage it. You will waste it, or worse, you will destroy it. Think of how many people won the lottery, and in a few years were poorer than before. Think of how many people were healed of a disease, and in a short time became sick again. The blessing came, but the identity was not ready to sustain it. It is like putting new wine into old wineskins. The wineskin bursts, the wine is lost. So when I say that your true identity is the key to the miracle that is arriving, I am not using a figure of speech. I am telling you a spiritual and scientific principle. When you recognize yourself as who God says you are, 3 things happen simultaneously. First, your emotional frequency changes. You leave fear and enter confidence. Studies of effective neuroscience show that people who live in a state of confidence have an immune system up to 60% stronger. Second, your perception changes. You begin to see opportunities that were always there, but that your brain filtered out because they did not match the old identity. This is proven by cognitive neuroscience. The brain has a system called the reticular activating system that filters reality according to your self-image. Change the self-image. Change the filter. Change the filter. Change the reality that you perceive. Third, the spiritual environment around you changes. The right people appear, the right doors open, the right problems are resolved. It is not magic, it is alignment. When you are in the right place spiritually, everything conspires in your favor. The Bible says in Romans 8:28, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose." But notice the condition, according to his purpose. If you do not know your purpose, if you do not know your identity, things do not work together. They collide. And here there is something that I need to tell you with all sincerity. The 18-hour time that is in the title of this video is not a trick. I genuinely believe that there is something moving in the spiritual in your favor at this moment. But this movement demands a response from you. It demands that you decide today, now, that you are going to stop living as someone you are not, that you are going to stop accepting labels that do not belong to you, that you are going to assume the identity that was prepared for you before the beginning of time. And I know that this causes fear. I know that change scares, because when you change who you are, everything around changes together. Relationships change, friendships change, even the way you speak changes, and not everyone will understand. Some people will think you are strange, others will distance themselves, but those who stay, stay for real, and those who come, come to add. If this video is making sense to you, tell me in the comments. Write a word, a phrase, whatever comes to the heart. I read each comment personally. And when I see someone writing, "I understood who I am," this gives me strength to continue producing this content. If you know someone who is living this moment of void, of spiritual tiredness, of a sensation of being lost, share this video with that person now. Send it on WhatsApp. Send it in the family group. Sometimes a message at the right moment is all that someone needed to take the next step. Now, before I finish, I want to deepen a crucial point that will tie together everything that was said until here, because there is one thing that most preachers and content creators do not speak of, and I need to speak. The discovery of your true identity is not an event. It is a process. It does not happen from night to day. It is not a snap. It is a path. And this path has stages. There are days when you will wake up feeling that nothing has changed. There are days when doubt will hit hard. There are days when the voices of the past will scream louder than the voice of truth. And on those days, what will sustain you is not emotion. It is decision. The decision to continue walking even when the path is dark. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says something that gives chills. He hath set the world eternity in their heart. This means that inside you there exists a seed of the infinite, a part of you that knows that you were made for something that transcends this earthly life. And this seed does not die, it can stay dormant. It can stay suffocated under years of labels, traumas, and lies. But it does not die. And when you begin to water it with truth, with silence, with declaration, it germinates. And when it germinates, nothing else is capable of stopping it. I will give you one last example. There exists a phenomenon in nature called the Chinese bamboo. You plant the seed of the bamboo, and in the first 5 years, nothing visible happens. Nothing. You water every day, fertilize, care, and the earth remains flat. Any person looking from the outside would say it is a waste of time. But under the earth, the roots are spreading. They are strengthening. They are preparing. And in the 6th year, the bamboo grows up to 25 meters in just 6 weeks. 25 meters. The question is, did it grow in 6 weeks or in 6 years? The answer is obvious. The 6 years of root were as important as the 6 weeks of growth. Your life may be in this root stage now. It may seem that nothing is happening. It may seem that God forgot you, but I guarantee you, the roots are forming. And when the growth comes, it will be so fast and so great that the people around you will not understand. They will say it was luck. They will say it was coincidence, but you will know the truth. You will know that it was identity. I know a man from Recife who lived in this root stage for almost 4 years. He was a bricklayer. He sustained his family with much sacrifice. His wife had fallen ill. His teenage children were getting involved with the wrong people, and he felt that the world was collapsing. He told me once, I prayed every day, but it seemed that God had changed his number. And even so, he did not stop. He continued praying. He continued declaring who he was. He continued believing that there was something greater being prepared. And one day, without warning, everything changed. The wife received a treatment that worked. The eldest son got a job that completely changed the course of his life. And the bricklayer himself was invited to manage a large construction project, something he would never have imagined. He called me and said a phrase that I will never forget. I did not change my life, I changed my identity, and life changed by itself. This is what happens when you stop trying to change the circumstances and begin to change who you are. The circumstances adjust, not because you control them, but because when you are aligned with your true identity, the spiritual flow of life begins to work in your favor instead of against you. And now to close, I need to tell you this looking into your eyes, even if it is through a screen. Everything that was said here was not by chance. Each word that resonated in your heart has a purpose. You did not watch this video for entertainment. You watched because there exists a calling upon your life that is demanding a response. Your family needs someone who knows who they are in the spiritual. Your children need someone who breaks the cycles that came from previous generations, and that someone is you. Not because you are perfect, but because you were designated. It was for this reason that I prepared the powerful digital book for you, Manual of the Chosen by God to Protect the Family. Everything I taught here is the surface. What is in this material is the deep dive that will give you the spiritual and practical tools to live according to your real identity, protect those you love, and unlock what is stuck. The link is in the description and pinned in the comments. Do not postpone. Do not say, later I will see. The moment is now. Write to me in the comments, I discovered who I am. This phrase is more than a comment, it is a spiritual declaration. And I believe that when you write this, something moves in the invisible world. If this video touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear this. It can be a family member, a friend, someone you know who is going through this moment of void. Sometimes, a shared video is the answer to another person's prayer. I see you in the next video. But do not go away without subscribing, without liking, and without activating the bell, because what comes next will complement exactly what you learned here today. May God bless you. May your true identity shine from now on. and may the miracle that is on the way find in you someone ready to receive it.